Welcome back to Illini Drive. I'm Josh Pietsch, joined this time with Brendyn Jones. We got our dynamic duo back. Brendyn, how are you?
I'm great. It's Gabby's out there covering the basketball game tonight. I was here yesterday, but I always love to do a Tuesday or Thursday show with you, Josh.
Yeah, we got the on-air editor back. Ooh, I love it.
Not for long. Only about a month left. That's wild.
That's right, and then someone might be taking over for you. I don't know who.
Some little tall blonde boy, maybe.
Yeah, no, I wasn't here, I think, at all last week because I was home getting the second vaccination. Everyone get vaccinated. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Feels good. Didn't feel too good the day after. I felt a little bit better than most people, but everyone out there get vaccinated so we can finally go back to normal.
Yeah, I'm trying. Whenever JB want to lob me a vaccine, I will definitely take it. But
I feel like Pritzker, now with the new president in office, should roll it out a little faster.
It's coming. I'm not mad. And there's other people that need it more than me, like you, who work in a. You're an essential worker. I'm not really essential right now, but
you're essential to me.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But I'll get mine sooner or later. But until then, I'm keep testing, keep my circle small, all that type of stuff.
Well, luckily, a lot of things have progressed, and one of the things that have progressed, which we need to talk about again, the NBA. They're not in a bubble anymore. Obviously, they've been playing at their home stadiums all year, which to me it's all right. I honestly really like the bubble. I like the virtual fans. I like the hype it got, and I don't know if it's weirder or not for the players, to be in their home arenas without any fans, or if the bubble ended up feeling a little normal to them. Obviously, in our case, we're Bulls fans, but and they didn't end up making it. But I mean, what do you think? If you were a player, would you rather be in the bubble with the virtual fans, kind of feeling a little bit normal inside the abnormal, or on your home floor, just no fans?
I would 100% be at my home floor. I think the bubble was a cool situation at first, but a lot of these guys, for instance, the Heat and the Lakers, spent a total of almost 3 months in Disneyland, kind of just
Disney World
in Florida, kind of just being there without their family. Obviously, as they progressed through the playoffs, they could bring some people in, but it was tough for them. I'm sure they enjoy being home. I'm sure they like to have that type of at least a little bit of freedom. Obviously, with that freedom comes a little bit of responsibility. We saw this week, I think the Spurs and maybe the Grizzlies. The Hornets maybe is the other team that have a little COVID issues. This week, we'll see how that progresses. But we haven't seen, huge outbreaks, especially team-wide outbreaks, which is good. We've had some teams go on pause, obviously, like the Spurs and the Hornets right now. Early in the year, there were some teams. But it's going about as good as you can expect it to go. As of right now, I don't know why they're trying to do that All-Star game in a couple weeks, but, that's a whole different conversation. But I'm having fun watching the NBA.
Yeah, no, it is a lot of fun. I agree with you. I think that if all families were allowed inside the bubble, I personally would probably just want to keep playing in there. I think it would just feel, I don't know, just without the fans, I maybe would like that a little more. But if their families aren't allowed inside and you can't see the people you love every day, or have to go, like you said, the Lakers and Heat 3 whole months without it, being back on their home floors is probably good. Do a little bit of what baseball did. The NFL, they never canceled a game all year. There was a little bit of a delay in games, but they never canceled one. Obviously, 82 games, per team. That this year it's going to be almost impossible. But I think that the NBA has done a pretty good job, handling all of that.
Yeah, as well as you can. It's hard. It's hard when you play every other day. The nature of this virus is a little weird in terms of, there's a little bit of a delay in how you can detect it, stuff like that. The NFL was strung together some success, mixing some games around, having, teams play 3 games in 20 days, type stuff like that. The NBA has a little less freedom with their schedule because they play pretty much every other day. There's a team playing every day. But yeah, they're doing as well as they can. That's all you can really ask for in this situation. And I want to credit the players. They've taken a lot of responsibility. They've done the things necessary to keep themselves safe, to make sure that they're still playing basketball.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, moving on to inside the games, I feel like we've talked about this for, 2, maybe 3 weeks in a row, Brendyn. Every single time we talk, I say I'm so surprised about the Jazz.
Yeah.
Every single time I expect to come back the next week, look at the NBA stands and see the Jazz back down at 3 or 4 where I think that they belong, maybe even 5. They are the best team in the NBA by 2 whole games right now. They're 23-5.
Yeah. 20. That's an
Holy
insane
cow.
record. I think last time we talked, I think a week and a half ago, me and you, They were only up a half game on the Lakers. Now they're up 2. They're better than the 76ers by 5 games. It's wild. I think it just shows it's crazy because the start of the coronavirus situation in the NBA started with the Jazz, started with Rudy Gobert testing positive last March, almost a year ago. Obviously, he did that thing in the post press conference when he was touching the mics and
that was so stupid,
making a joke of it. He wasn't taking it seriously. I don't think anybody was at that point, but he just was the person that was infected. There was a lot of stories about, is this team chemistry ever going to be good? Are they going to have to move either Rudy Gobert or Donovan Mitchell because how angry they are at each other with this? Then they played in the bubble. They played pretty well. They had a crazy series with the Nuggets that went to Game 7, and they lost on that last-second shot, or missing a last-second shot. And then this year they come out on all cylinders and are on an 8-game win streak right now, 9 of their last 10. And they're better than every other team in the NBA. Is that sustainable? I don't know. But Rudy Gobert is playing obviously just as well as he ever has on defense. And he's playing pretty well on offense as well. Donovan Mitchell is good, and their role players are phenomenal. They took a whole step forward, while other teams are kind of just, in the middle of the pack trying to figure it out, which is credit to the Jazz, credit to Donovan Mitchell. I think he is doing as well as he has ever.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Huge credit to them. I know Jordan Clarkson had a pretty big game last night. That was really cool to see. Rudy Gobert averaging almost 3 blocks a game. That is sick. So good.
Yeah, he dunked on Giannis the other day. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
Because, I don't know if you could make the argument that Giannis has stolen that deep boy away from him from last year. I wouldn't necessarily make that argument, but that's something that Rudy Gobert has to pride himself on, winning Defensive Player of the Year. He's done it multiple times before. And him dunking on him like that, because Rudy Gobert has always been a little limited on offense, was kind of cool to see.
I agree. And then someone else on that team that's playing really well, Mike Conley. He's been a lot more efficient this year. 6 assists, a steal and a half. That's a lot for the NBA, right?
That's a good. Some of the leading steal people usually have like 2.4. So a steal and a half is solid defense right there.
Yeah, no. So obviously great for them. Just looking at the NBA standings here as a whole, the 4 best teams in the NBA are all from the West. Then you go to the 76ers, and then you have my favorite team, the Trailblazers, who are the 6th best team.
Playing pretty well.
And even though I'm biased and they're my favorite, I do want to talk to you a little bit about them because Nurkic and McCollum, 2 very good NBA players, are out, and Dame just has this team rolling.
Yeah, he's like that. I
love him.
How long have we said that Damian Lillard is underrated, that Damian Lillard is this and that, and he is playing really, really good basketball. Every year in the last few years, he's stepped it up. He's done something different, and he's led this team through so much injury trouble that they've had in these last few seasons, with Nurkic obviously being out for a large stretch of the time, McCollum being in and out. And yeah, Damian Lillard's like that. He's had to grind, pretty much his whole life, 4 years at Weber State, coming into the NBA, missed a few All-Star teams, stuff like that. And he's trying to show that he's the best point guard in the league. I still would give it to Steph, but he's up there. He's in that conversation, as he should be.
It's really hard not to give it to Steph right now. Steph's playing like unhuman like basketball now.
He's playing like he was in 2015, except he just has no help. Which
is, as some people would argue, the best individual season of like the last 10 years. So he's really on right now. So as much as I love Dame, I'd probably give the top point guard in the league to Curry. But it's very easy to say, even with how well Curry's playing, the gap is lowering.
Oh, yeah. It's as low as
quickly.
It's ever been.
Yeah. And then just someone else on the Trailblazers, Enes Kanter's averaging 11 rebounds a game. That's pretty cool. He's a good offensive rebounder. Dame has 7 assists. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really hope that they can stay in, 5th place, maybe even get up to 4th and pass the Suns if they can be. And that's another team, the Suns. They're playing really well, too.
Yeah, they started off hot. Obviously, what they did in the bubble, then acquiring Chris Paul, I thought was like a really, really good move. They started off kind of shaky this year. They're in 4th place right now, rolling, winning 6 in a row, 9 in their last 10. It'll be interesting to see, because that's a team that most of them we've never seen in the playoffs. We've seen Chris Paul play in the playoffs, struggle a little bit, especially late in the playoffs. But we'll see what they're able to do. But I like them a lot. I think Chris Paul brings a whole different dynamic to that team, where for the last 4 years, Devin Booker has been the guy who's had to be the primary ball handler. Adding Chris Paul to that team kind of shakes it up a little bit, lets Devin Booker play a little more free. And then obviously DeAndre Ayton, who is just, really, really good. And they have a good supporting cast, so I like the Suns.
And just shifting over to the East real quick, we have the Sixers, who are still doing their thing. I think that their record doesn't surprise me. The fact that they're in first surprises me a little bit more. I don't really know what to think about that. Like 18-10 sounds very right for the 76ers team, but for some reason, first place, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying at all? Like it just doesn't. It feels
well, an 18-10 first place is a little low for first place. But if you look at the other conference, I mean, 23-5 is a really, really good record for this point in the season.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like, I don't know. It's weird. The East is kind of beating up on each other right now. I mean, there's 8th place is the Raptors, and they're 5.5 games behind, and then it's 13th place is only 3 games behind 8th place. So I mean, like it's really even right now. There's a lot of teams that I think can make a run outside of that. The top 5, which is the Sixers, Bucks, Nets, Pacers, and Celtics. I think the Knicks could make it. I think the Hornets can make it. I think the Raptors can make it, or the Raptors will make it. I think the Heat will make it. I think the Bulls could make it. There's a legitimate 13-ish teams in here where I see them making the playoffs. And I think it just the talent, because like the talent I think is very spread out right now in the NBA, especially in the Eastern Conference. You see all this type stuff. Like you see Julius Randle playing at an all-star level. You see the Hornets playing, really, really good basketball behind Terry Rozier, behind Gordon Hayward, behind LaMelo Ball, stuff like that. And I mean, that's why the Heat, who were the Eastern Conference champions last year, that along with, their best player being out for COVID for a few weeks, are only in 10th place, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So to end this talk, obviously we're both Bulls fans. What do you think about the way Zach LaVine's been playing?
It's been a long time since like the Bulls have had like a bona fide star. Mm-hmm. I think you can make that case with Jimmy Butler when he was here. I think he's been better since he left. 100% Derrick Rose. Zach LaVine is that guy.
Yes.
And it's tough because like I watch him a lot and he does a lot of things that you just like last night he got the lead in the closing minutes of the fourth quarter against the Pacers. That game went into overtime. He hit the step back 3 with Domantas Sabonis in his pocket, basically, like hands all in his face, just nothing but net. He's a guy that makes a lot of shots in the fourth quarter. I saw the stat. He's leading the league in fourth quarter points, but is like 40th in fourth quarter minutes, something like that. Like some insane stat like that. I don't know. I have to read the stat. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. But I don't know. He's really, really good, but it's tough because me and Nathan were talking a little bit about this. What he does bad, the whole team does bad. He struggles with turnovers sometimes. The whole team struggles with turnovers. He has clutch moments, but in the fourth quarter, sometimes the team can fall apart. So he's relied on clutch moments a lot. And I mean, you're not going to hit every clutch moment. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But I'm a huge fan of Zach LaVine. I think he's stepped it up defensively this year. He stepped it up effort-wise. He's rebounding better. He's seeing the floor a little bit better. And I just wish that you could have some consistency around him. Obviously, Wendell Carter Jr. is back in the lineup after being injured. Lauri Markkanen is out right now, though. If this team could get everybody on the court consistently and healthy, this team could make a playoff run. They're in 9th right now, so they're only a half game out of the playoffs right now.
So I agree with you. If they, get healthy and consistent, I'm going to take a step back. I don't think they're going to. I don't think the Bulls are going to make the playoffs this year. And this is coming from a Bulls fan. Like, I like to be optimistic about them. I'm not. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But that being said, Zach LaVine has to be an all-star. The dude's almost in the 50-40-90 club, which is insane. He's shooting 51% from the field, 43% from 3, then 85 from the free throw line, which is still very, very good. It's not elite, but it's still very good. He is averaging 3.8 turnovers a game, like you said, which is way higher than his career average, which is 2.6. So, but again, you kind of alluded to it that the whole team with the Bulls, it's very obvious when you watch, they struggle with turnovers. But yeah, no, I love Zach LaVine. I think that even though he doesn't play the best defense, I think it's improving, and he is at least trying a little bit harder. He's got to be an all-star to me.
I agree. I think he should be an all-star. I think he's playing at an all-star level. But you also have guys I mean, this is a guard-heavy league, as we've seen, and you got guys that may deserve it more than him. You can make the case that Ben Simmons deserves it more than him. You can make the case that Kyrie and James Harden deserve it more than him. Jaylen Brown, you can make that argument. You could make the argument that, Gordon Hayward maybe. Jimmy Butler's still in that mix. You could make the argument for a lot of guys above him, but I would put him in my All-Star. I voted for him like 4 times already.
Me too.
Yeah, I vote for him a lot.
All right, we're going to take a little break. When we get back, the age-old, month-old talk. Luka Garza or Ayo Dosunmu? That's next on Illini Drive.
WPGU 107.1.
Welcome back into Illini Drive. When this season started, I think that he was the preseason National Player of the Year, the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, rightfully so, Luka Garza. And I think that everyone kind of just thought, he's going to run away with this thing. Iowa's going to be really good. He's going to be really good. He's 6'11". He's not a super high draft prospect. He might be lower than Ayo Dosunmu, but what he does for his team is insane. Luka Garza, you're a great player. That being said, Ayo Dosunmu has gotten so much better this year. He started the year super hot. Right now, he's averaging about 22 points a game compared to Luka Garza's 24.5, which is very similar. But Luka does not close the way Ayo does. And Ayo has done things for his team that have made people recently go, this race for Big Ten Player of the Year might be a little closer than we think, right? Because in my eyes right now, the National Player of the Year, Luka's further ahead. But conference games alone, Ayo might be inching up to him, Brendan. What do you think?
Ayo Dosunmu. I'm sorry I had to pause. I'm trying to gather my thoughts because I said this yesterday. Ayo Dosunmu is not only the best guard in the Big Ten. Not only is he the best guard in the nation, Ayo Dosunmu is the best player in the Big Ten, and Ayo Dosunmu is the best player in the nation. I'm saying it. There is not a single player that I see out there that is more important to the success of their team than Ayo Dosunmu. And when you look at Luka Garza, I think that he does one thing really well. He scores offensively. He is in a whole nother level. He can score on anybody at any point, anytime. He has a crazy bag in the post game, and he's very, very important to his team. But when you look at a lot of the stuff that Luka Garza put himself forward in the beginning, right? When they were playing Iowa was playing their non-conference slate, and they were like, 4th in the nation, and they were first in offense in Kim Palm, all that stuff. When they were playing the Western Kentuckys and the Western Illinois of the world, stuff like that. And Luka Garza was going off. Yeah, sure. But in the last few weeks, Iowa has fluttered. They're not good. They lost 4 out of 5 against teams that they should have. It's not like they were surprised. They were real gritty losses that they should have shown up for. They should have been prepared for. And Luka Garza was never really a liability in those games. He put up his numbers, but you could see that it didn't really affect the team because when everybody around him kind of fell apart, he didn't do anything to elevate those guys. Ayo Dosunmu, I think, has 2 signature games under his belt. Obviously, his whole season is signature, right? You look at Nebraska where he scored, what was it, like 15?
15 in a row.
15 in a row, right? That's
like 3 minutes of 3 or 4 minutes of regulation, then 1 minute in OT.
Classic Ayo Dosunmu stuff. Saw the stuff that we saw against Missouri. But he has 2 games, one in Iowa when they played Iowa, and 2 against Wisconsin, that I think put him in a whole other league of his own. Because
this year or
this year.
Okay, all right.
His Iowa game this year and his Wisconsin game this year, that he is a better defender than Luka Garza is in comparison guards and big men. He has done more to improve himself on rebounding the basketball. He's done more to improve himself being a facilitator of the basketball, and he's scoring a lot of points. He is a more complete player than Luka Garza. His team is ranked better than Iowa. When they played head-to-head, Illinois prevailed. And I think the thing isn't going to be about numbers. When this comes down to it, I don't think it's really going to be about numbers because
Can't be.
I think if you look at Io's numbers, yes, he scores a little less, but I think across the board, Io puts up better numbers than Luka Garza in comparison to I would assume is a 6'5" guard, Luka Garza a 6'11" center. But it's going to have to be about narrative. And if Illinois sees Iowa in the Big Ten tournament and Illinois beats them on the back of Io DeSumo, there's no way that you can tell me that Io doesn't deserve Big Ten Player of the Year. And then, if we've already kind of decided that the Big Ten Player of the Year is, kind of who's the National Player of the Year, if we've been giving it to Luka Garza this whole year, why shouldn't Io be the National Player of the Year?
So when I brought this up 5 minutes ago, I personally said I think the National Player of the Year and the Big Ten Player of the Year can be two different people. Because the Big Ten Player of the Year should be specific to Big Ten games, right?
Fair.
Where I think that Luka was outstanding the first 7-8 games of the year. When they played Iowa State, he was awesome. When they played North Carolina, not a huge stats game for him, but he was awesome. When they played Gonzaga, he did his thing. He scored 30. Very, very, very good play. In the Big Ten, it's still been extremely good. Don't get me wrong. I think Luka's an awesome player. I'd love to have him. But it went down a little bit. Where numbers for Io may have also gone down, but you can tell, just in these Big Ten games, Illinois would be nowhere without Io.
100%.
So,
and I think Iowa would still be a good Big Ten team without Luka Garza, just based on how good their supporting cast is.
He scored 8 points against Michigan State, and they won by 30 the other day, right?
Exactly. And you rarely see, and here's the thing with Luka Garza, if he doesn't score, there's nothing else he's doing. He's not defending well. He's not a good defender. He's not an outstanding passer. He's a solid rebounder for his size. It is what it is. But there's games he shows up. He's 3 rebounds. Whereas Io, when he doesn't score well, there's other things that he does. He assists well. When he had 21 points the other night, he had 12 assists, 12 rebounds. He plays defense really well. The Iowa game, look at his film when he was playing defense. How important he was, how he helped shut down Jordan Bohannon and Wisekamp, stuff like that. I think Iowa is so much more important to his team than Luka Garza is. And when you look at the teams, there's one team that has definitively been better, especially in the stretch of the last 3 weeks, and that's Illinois. And that's why Io DeSumo is better than Luka Garza, and he kind of dunked over him when they played. So I'm going to have to get it to Io.
Well, I think it's, I'm not going to say it goes without question, but I think that pretty much everyone at this point can agree it's a two-man race, right, for Big Ten Player of the Year.
You could throw Trace Jackson Davis in there because I think that Indiana would be worse than Nebraska without him. But
but Indiana's not good enough.
Good. Yeah,
so basically, right, this thing might end up coming down to if one of these two teams wins the regular season conference title. I'll tell you right now, Iowa's not winning the conference title. They're fourth in the Big Ten, but they're a game and a half behind Ohio State and Illinois, and 2 whole games back behind Michigan. Michigan's not getting, the Big Ten Player of the Year, and Ohio State's not getting the Big Ten Player of the Year. I think that if this thing might end up coming down to if Illinois wins the Big Ten, because if Illinois is first or second and Iowa's 4th, I think that Iowa can deserve it. But if Illinois skids at the end of the year and they end up being equal, look, now you have to look at stats, and even though the numbers are overall better, Luka had the recognition at the beginning of the year, and he does average almost 30 or maybe almost 25 a game, where Iowa's closer to 20. I don't know. I 100% agree with you though that Illinois would be so much worse, not so much worse, but significantly worse without Iowa, where Iowa could still maybe hold their own and definitely not be the worst in the Big Ten at all without Luka.
That's the thing about this whole argument, though. It all depends on if Illinois wins out, if they come close to winning.
They're not. Yeah, you
don't think they're going to win out in the regular season? No. Not in the regular season. Who are they going to lose to?
At Ohio State to end the year.
They can't lose that game. That's the one game they can't lose.
Why?
Because they have to be better than. They can't lose Ohio State twice.
We'll beat them in the Big Ten tournament.
That's lame. I want to beat them at Ohio State, which I think they can. When they played Ohio State in Illinois, they had a disgusting first half, and they almost came back to win it.
They got a tough schedule, Brendan. At Minnesota after Northwestern, at Wisconsin.
But here, listen to Minnesota. Here's my Minnesota thing. I think that Minnesota is such a mismatch problem for playing Illinois for Minnesota is a mismatch problem. That's why Illinois was able to beat them almost by 30 the last time they played. There's nobody that can guard Kofi Cockburn the way he plays. And I think that's going to be so important because he slows down the game and he makes it all about him in some situations. And you can see that when Illinois plays a team that can't guard Kofi Cockburn, it's obvious. It's almost a win. You can write it in as a win. There's rarely been a game where Illinois played where Ayo Dosunmu, gets stopped. It's like Baylor really and Indiana when he fouled out.
Yeah.
Those are really the two games where he's just limited.
Yep.
But other than that, there's not a lot. But so Ayo's going to get his points. But when Kofi is able to just dominate, it's so hard for teams to beat Illinois because how do you stop that, right? So if they play the same way they did against Minnesota, I don't think Minnesota has a chance against Illinois. But you're right. They play Wisconsin again in Madison. They play Nebraska again. I don't know for whatever reason, but that was a tough matchup for Illinois. But I think that the most important game in that stretch to win is Ohio State. And I think they can win out. I think that they've hit their stride at the right moment. And the two games that they fluttered, the Indiana game and the Nebraska game, those are two games that while you sucked, and I'll say it like you sucked, those are two games you could build confidence off of. The Indiana game, where your best player fouls out and you don't have him for overtime, and you're able to break down in defense just playing the pick and roll and playing through Kofi Cockburn and using your role players to be good, that's something you can build on, right? In the Nebraska game, you're down 7 with 3 minutes left. You force overtime, and then you destroy them in overtime. That's another thing you can build on. While it sucks that you had to win like that, you couldn't blow out these teams. It is what it is. You have to fight, and you can kind of build off of. It starts today with Northwestern, a team where you struggled in the first half last time you played them, but in the second half, and I know we're going to talk about this a little later, you exploded. But you really have to kind of work out all the kinks right now. And I think that's what these next like 2 or 3 games before you have to see Wisconsin and Ohio State are about. But I look at the schedule and I can see them winning out.
So I have a couple things before we get back to the Iowa, Luka versus Iowa thing, just to respond.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Illinois is going to win out. I don't think they need to win out. I think that if they lose one game the rest of the way, feel really good going into the tournament, even if that is at Ohio State. About Nebraska, I want to say they were awful, for 39 minutes or whatever. The offense was terrible. The defense was fine. To win that game was impressive to me. I don't care what anyone says. You're down, 7 with a minute and a half left or 2 minutes left or something like that. I don't care who you're playing. This is a Division I basketball team. This is a Big Ten basketball team who ended up beating Penn State the next game on the road, I think. That was impressive. All right, back to this.
Mm-hmm.
On the Illinois schedule, I think that there's one game that might end up determining this race. So Iowa and Trace Jackson Davis beat Indiana and TJD beat Iowa and Luka twice.
Right.
Illinois beat the other good big guy twice. Let's look at... So I want to circle the Minnesota game.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa lost at Minnesota. Luka was... I think he was okay in that game.
He was okay.
He was all right.
And Iowa to be fair to Iowa, they were up big really late and stuff just didn't go their way. They lost in overtime.
Yeah, they collapsed. So if Illinois can beat Minnesota twice because Iowa plays really well at Minnesota, it's very hard to win at Minnesota. You know this, I know this. The whole country that follows Minnesota knows this. If Illinois can go into Minnesota and win because Iowa had a good game where Iowa collapsed, probably in part because Luka didn't do some heroics down the stretch, that might be the game that puts Iowa over the top, honestly. Because then if you win at Michigan State, Nebraska, maybe Wisconsin, and then Nebraska again. How many times do they play Nebraska? What the heck?
One of those Nebraska's not.
Okay.
Are you looking at the ESPN schedule? Yeah, one of those Nebraska's not.
All right.
I'm not sure which one.
I think the 3-2 is the one they do play. But anyways, even if you lose to Ohio State and even if you do lose at Wisconsin, which I don't think is going to happen, by the way, but considering where they are now and the fact that I don't think Iowa's going to win out, Iowa seems to only get getting better right now, where Luka's just staying constant. That Minnesota game, circle that, because that might be the game he goes over the top, I think.
Yeah, I think he has to. And if you look at the last time they played Minnesota, it wasn't a great game for Iowa to assume.
No, it wasn't. He scored 10, I think.
Yeah, I think he scored 10 points. But if he's able to kind of show them, okay, we beat Minnesota twice. Who beat you guys once? We beat Indiana twice. Who beat you guys twice? We beat you guys. There's a lot of reason to be like, okay, like Iowa Dosunmu's just a better first option than Luka Garza for that team. They're on a better team. But I know we're talking about all this. I hate to get ahead of myself because this all depends on how well Illinois plays. And, I mean, if you look at that Nebraska game, if you look at that Indiana game, both those that went into overtime, they weren't phenomenal, great wins. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's games that scare me. Like Michigan State scares me. Not even because they're good, but because it's Michigan State and it's at
Tom
Michigan
Izzo.
State. And it's Tom Izzo, you know? The Minnesota game kind of scares me just a little bit. The Ohio State game is obviously scary. I think they have to find a way to win
Ohio State's a problem. They're really good.
They are really good, but I think they have to find a way to win that game because that's going to decide a lot, right? Because Michigan still has to play Ohio State. So if Michigan loses to Ohio State and then Illinois beats Ohio State, that leaves some question for, okay, how much can Illinois rise to that? Because I think the third spot in the AP rankings is probably as high as Illinois can go if they win out. Before the Big Ten or before the what's the name tournament, they're not going to catch Gonzaga. They're not going to catch Baylor. But so a lot rides on that Ohio State game. They need to come out and play as good of a game as they played against the first time they played against Wisconsin, maybe even better.
Yep, I agree. All right, so obviously tonight is that Northwestern game. We're going to take a break, but when we get back, that's, obviously we'll do the same thing with the game within the next couple of days. We'll preview that. That's next on Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive. All right, tonight in about an hour and 14 minutes from now, T-minus 74 minutes, Illinois plays at home at the State Farm Center, a little south of us, against Northwestern. They're opening the game, it looks like, as 13 point favorites. I originally thought the spread was 10.5, but people clearly seem to like Illinois. For me, watching that first game, yeah, they won by 20 or whatever, but the first half was abysmal. You think they come out? Any chance they come out again looking like that? Or
they can't. There's no way that they can, because if you look at every time they lose a game, Ohio State, or they're even in trouble, right? Ohio State. You look at this previous Nebraska game, the Penn State game, the first Northwestern game. One of Illinois' big problems throughout the year is that they start poorly. There's no way that they can continue to start poorly and have hopes. That's the biggest thing about them, is that they have to figure out a way to start on fire and have this momentum going, because it was nice that in the second half you outscored Northwestern 53-13, but that's not going to happen all the time. You need to figure out a way to come out, be better, be the defense that they played on Northwestern in the second half, I think, is their best defensive half of the year. 13 points.
Best defensive half in program history, probably.
Probably. Unless you're, especially in a Big Ten game.
Yeah.
Maybe in a non-conference game they did a little better, but in a Big Ten game, doing that is insane. On the other end, 53 points has to be one of the highest too, right? So,
score a team by 40, not only in the game, but in the first half. That's insane.
Wild. So you have to figure out a way to come out that well. And against this Northwestern team, you can beat them. You did it at Northwestern the first time. Now it's in Illinois. You have to figure out a way to do that, because you're coming to the stage where there shouldn't be a lot of kinks to figure out. You know what I mean? What makes Illinois successful is when Io and Kofi do Io and Kofi. You start well and the role players play well. If the role players don't play well, then it's going to be a struggle. And then if you add that and maybe Kofi or Io struggles, then it's going to be a loss, right? So the way you remedy that is that you come out strong, you come out hot, and you play your best basketball from the first minute on. That's what you have to do. That's what you didn't do against Northwestern to start it. Luckily, you're able to come back and have an insane second half, but you can't always count on that. And this is a team that is really bad right now. They're looking at their
bad.
11th straight loss.
They're bad.
Right? They're really, really bad. You have to figure out a way to beat them.
I think that Illinois is looking at this, I think that Brad Underwood has circled this game because, well, one, it's your in-state rival. You always want to beat them. Two, you look what happened last time. And three, they end up coming back and winning. And, you think you're big shots because you outscored a team by 40. And you think you have this momentum. And then the very next game, you lose at home to Maryland, ranked 6th in the country or something like that. Then you lose to Ohio State. They haven't lost since. So you don't want to get too cocky, because you've beaten a few, obviously not Nebraska, but you've beaten a few really good teams here lately. And then you probably think, back into the top 10. What's going to happen against Nebraska? We get cocky. We're going to kill them. Nebraska could have, would have, should have won that game.
Yeah.
So I think that Brad has had this one circled, especially since last Friday, and has just said, this is a game that we cannot sleep on because this is our in-state rival. We always play them close at home. We're just up to number 5. If we don't come out hard like last time, they're going to take advantage way more than they did last time because Northwestern has this game circled on their schedules.
Yeah.
I guarantee you,
feel
when
robbed.
you're ranked this high like Illinois is, every team is going to play 100%, give 110% about you for all 40 minutes on the floor. Where Illinois thinks that, oh, this is a Nebraska, a Michigan State, a Northwestern. We don't have to give it all and we can still win. They maybe can, but I'm getting kind of tired of playing with fire. So I really think that Brad Underwood is going to say, no, we are coming out hard and we are dominating from minute 1 to minute 40 tonight, because if not, this is going to be a close game.
It is. And you don't want to play a close game this late in the season against, a team that really has nothing to lose because they're going to try to beat you. This is what they have circled, right? In football, Northwestern beats Illinois pretty much every year since I don't even know when, right? So when you're looking at basketball, Illinois kind of has that edge in state. Nebraska wants to kind of take that, or Northwestern. Why do I keep saying Nebraska? Northwestern kind of wants to take that back, especially because they were ranked at the beginning of the year. They played well throughout some of this stretch, right? They're obviously on a tough stretch right now, but they're still a legitimate team that can beat you. You saw that. Nebraska, the worst team in the Big Ten, took you to overtime. So you have to come out like they need to learn their lesson from Nebraska. They need to learn that anybody can beat you at any moment, and you have to understand that. And I think that's probably the most important thing for this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Learn from this Nebraska game. Go out, do your thing. Like we said, it's an in-state game. And that being said, like, Northwestern is not good. Like, let's say that. But it's really weird because they started the year so well. Like, when they were ranked 23rd, I know a lot of people, I think Simberg tweeted it, like, never rank Northwestern again. They looked really good at the beginning of the year. They beat Ohio State, which says a lot because, to me, Ohio State is a problem. They are the biggest threat in my eyes to Illinois winning the conference, the tournament, Big Ten championship. So Northwestern can be good, though. And, yeah, sure, their leading scorer is about 12 points per game. Bo Bowie, or whatever his name is, I think the talented guard, hasn't played as well as he did in the beginning of the year. But still, like, this always happens with Illinois. You end up playing Northwestern. I remember I was at a game the year remember when they started, they beat Gonzaga on the road, and then they lost that super close game to Missouri when it was like the 8-10 game or whatever. I remember later in that year, I was like 13 maybe. Illinois was at Northwestern, ranked 23rd in the country. Northwestern was bad. This was a bad Northwestern team. Probably similar record to now. Northwestern beats them because why not?
Right.
It happens all the freaking time.
Yeah,
like, it happens
100%.
so often. Chris Collins is such a good coach. Like,
yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, Northwestern, while they're bad for the Big Ten, they're legitimate ball players. They're in the Big Ten for a reason. These guys are Big Ten players for a reason. They're good, right? So anytime you give players with this type of talent an opportunity to beat you, if you let them hang around too long, stuff could happen. It's a flip of a coin, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is, especially when teams are this hungry. These guys are talented. Chris Collins is a good coach, right? So, I don't know. That's why you need to start hot, and you need to demoralize them early, and you can't let them feel like, oh, if we keep playing at their pace, like, we could come back. Because I guarantee you that's what they thought to in the second half, right, when they were up 15 to start the second half. They were like, oh, man, like, this team's ranked. Like, if we beat them, we're going to be ranked, stuff like that. So you got to understand that. You got to demoralize them early. You have to be the one that's up 15 at the half, right? And then as soon as the second half starts, you got to keep pushing on them so that you're up 20, right? So they feel like they can't come back because this is a team that has talent. This is a team that, for the first 20 minutes of the last game, pushed Illinois to the brink, and you do not want to see that again because losing to a Northwestern team that has just lost 11 straight would do so much damage to Illinois' credibility, to their ranking, and to their chances of winning a Big Ten title.
I agree. All right, before we go into our game predictions, I have a couple questions for you. Maybe sort of trivia? I don't know. Illinois is 14-5. They've played 19 games. How many games have there been that either Kofi or Io was not the leading scorer for the game?
Indiana. I know that one because it was Trent Frazier.
Okay.
2?
Just the one.
Just one.
And then I was going to ask you, who do you think it was
Indiana.
in which game?
I
Yeah,
know.
it was
It
Indiana
was
against
Indiana.
Fraser.
I thought it might have been
19.
two, maybe an early one. But yeah, look, that's what it is. And we saw how tough that game was. We saw they almost lost that game. As much as Trent Frazier is a talented scorer, he can't be the number one guy, especially when you have Io and Kofi that play. So yeah, you gotta do it, man. You two have to set that tone and establish it and just destroy this team. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to go home and watch at when it starts at 8 p.m. I want to see 40 straight minutes of just Kofi dunking, Io pulling up from mid-range, slashing, Trent hitting some threes, Adam Miller hitting some threes, Curbelo hitting some crazy passes, and then start slapping the floor like you did the last time.
Yep.
I haven't seen that since then. So
I agree. Lowest high-scoring game for Illinois, Kofi, 14, Purdue. I think that's pretty interesting. Obviously, the highest 36 for Io against Missouri. Good team. They're a good team.
Yeah.
They're really good, Brendan.
And that's
They're
why
really
that loss wasn't that bad. And you could tell by the way they played, because Illinois didn't necessarily play a bad game against Missouri. It was a tough game. And
It was a really tough game.
It was a tough game. There was defense. Stuff didn't go Illinois' way.
Zebras definitely had the Mizzou money line.
And so you could tell by that game that Missouri, they were unranked at that point, that Missouri was better than they were ranked, right? And now what are they, like 13?
20.
Oh, they got down
to 10.
They got down, right. Yeah. So look, but that's a good team. So you can kind of hang your hat on that loss. But yeah, I mean, that there's nothing more I can say about this game. We've seen everything that Illinois is. We've seen them at their best. We've seen them at their worst. Kind of in the Northwestern game, the first half was their worst. Maybe their second half was their best. You have to play your best basketball for 40 minutes of this game. And then I want to see Brandon Lieb, and I want to see
Jermaine Hamlin. Maybe get some Tyler Underwood out there.
Yeah, I almost lost a bet, man. Well, I didn't almost lose a bet because Tyler Underwood didn't have any minutes in that game. But I said if Tyler Underwood dunked, that I would get TU tattooed on my body somewhere. He didn't dunk,
against
though.
Who?
It was against Nebraska. It was against Nebraska. So when it was a close game at the end, I was kind of happy. But it was, I'm glad he didn't dunk.
Just looking, before we do predictions real quick, because we got to wrap up soon. Just looking at the stats and the schedule as a whole, after that Ohio State game, which wasn't too long ago. I mean, it was 5 or 6 games ago. But even, in like stretches in between that, this is such a special Illinois team. Like, make a Final Four, Illinois, please.
That'd be crazy.
Just do it.
Because I don't know when I don't know when they'll get another chance. Because
just looking at the roster,
get drafted in the first round this year. So I don't know when it's going to happen again.
That's a hot take, my man.
Oh, 100%.
He's projected 35th.
I say he gets picked 23rd.
On Thursday, we got to talk about Kofi. All right, real quick. Who's your winner? How much is Illinois winning by?
Illinois wins 82-57.
Eesh, 25?
Yep.
Illinois 83-70.
Yeah, that's probably closer.
No one wins on the spread tonight. No one wins.
Fair. I'm ready for it.
All right. That's going to wrap up today's show. Illinois starts in about just over an hour on Big Ten Network. From Brendan and Josh, this has been Illini Drive.
Sir.